the growth and development of the society on the whole. And so today morning, let our hearts take over our heads and let's make inroads into reconstructing a world that is cohesive to all and equal in its strategies in providing a secure and robust workforce that will certainly yield its fruit in due season. So without much ado, let's commence this morning as I invite Mr. Kamesh Sanghi to start the day with a welcome note. Over to you, Kamesh. May we please have a round of applause for Kamesh Sanghi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. And thanks once again to everyone present here, Mr. Sanjay Prakash, Mr. Lalit Mohan, Mr. Gunjan Patel, our funders, Mr. Aman Bhaiya, who has been, one of the leads, Padmaja ma'am, Priyanka, Tanvi, everyone from our partners. Once again, a big thank you to you for being present and making this event such a successful one already. So I just want to, while you will be coming to know about many of the programmatic components, the other aspects, I just want to set a context of how this program has evolved and how this is a little different from our overall approach. So firstly, we are following a pathway called FATE, which is Facilitation, Advocacy, Technology, and Employment. When we designed this program, we realized that for creating opportunities for persons with disability, skilling and employment was not just enough. There is a very large relationship aspect that exists with the leaders of the large corporates. There are thought leaders who have taken initiative in the space of disability and done wonders. But there are still a lot of organizations who need handholding, need support. Somewhere they need, in a way, a facilitation. Traditionally, NGOs, civil society organizations tend to have two kinds of relationships in a livelihood skilling space. We have the relationship of approaching a corporate for funding, or we have the relationship of approaching a corporate for recruitment. But we thought there is a need for a third kind of relationship where we go to the corporates and see that how can we facilitate their inclusion journey. That is where, as part of the program, we launched Pledge to Inclusion. A pledge to inclusion is not necessarily a commitment that you will definitely recruit, but a commitment to the intent that we want our spaces to become more disability inclusive, right? And this year's theme is all about leadership, accessibility, and creating a more equitable world. And that is where we have called all leaders over here to bring everyone together, put our minds together, see what kind of solutions can come in, but not just that. For us, these roundtables are also sometimes the initiation of a journey and initiation of a relationship. We want to offer our services to you to see how we can facilitate in that journey. As a simple example, we have launched a portal called inclusivejobs.in. Now, what is the idea of that is that people come together, corporates on the one side, person with disability on the other side, come together so that it becomes a little easier for you to do a real-time access, right? So how can we make these little solutions? We are today going to be launching the toolkit, a simple step-by-step process of how the inclusion journey for a corporate can begin. So that is, of course, our effort, but we know very little. You being in the organization have already explored. And taking the best practices of one organization to another is one of the other fundamental goals of such roundtables. So I think I'll not take much more time. Once again, my heart is full of gratitude, and as Vandana said, a lovely morning and a lovely breakfast. I hope all of you have had. Otherwise, tea, coffee, breakfast is there. Please chip in, and thank you so much. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Kamesh, for your words. As Kamesh rightly said, here are leaders, people who will support India in the forefront for equality and justice. Thank you. Calling upon next is Shri Sanjay Prakash, the Managing Director and CEO, SBI Foundation. A little about Mr. Prakash. He began his banking career with postings in rural centers in Pakur district in Jharkhand. Over the last 32 years, he has served in various positions, heading branches in rural and urban centers, handling IT projects, retail businesses, cross-selling businesses, and manning critical administrative positions in the State Bank of India. Having served in many remote places, he has empathy for the people living in extreme hardships in underprivileged conditions. He is deeply committed to doing a lot more for the society, particularly for bringing improvement in healthcare facilities in rural areas and educational facilities for the marginalized class of the society. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present Shri Sanjay Prakash. May I please request you to come on dais and address us with a few words.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning to all, ladies and gentlemen. It feels very nice to be attending this third roundtable, which is in joint partnership with Microsoft India, the American India Foundation, and SBI Foundation. The last roundtable was held in Delhi. Due to some other commitment, I could not attend it. So, in the beginning, I would just like to give a formal, brief introduction about what SBI Foundation is, what SBI Foundation does, so that it sets the perspective for the today's deliberations. SBI Foundation is a CSR arm of State Bank of India. It came into existence in the year 2015. It basically is responsible for implementing the CSR initiatives of the State Bank of India as well as its group companies. It's the State Bank Group. We have the responsibility of serving the communities for promoting growth and equality among the communities, particularly the vulnerable and the underprivileged sections of the society. SBI Foundation's CSR activities are widespread and deep-rooted and have made a true difference in the lives of over 1 million beneficiaries so far. It is committed to contribute positively to the Sustainable Development Goals by bringing about positive change in the lives of the underprivileged sections of the society. And therefore, the focus of the foundation is mainly broadly in 7 priority areas, that is healthcare, rural development, empowerment of persons with disability, education, environment and climate change, livelihoods and entrepreneurship, sports and women empowerment. At SBI, we already experienced the social, moral and economic benefits of inclusion. In SBI, we are committed to the promotion, development, and welfare of the persons with disabilities. And you must be aware that in all our recruitment processes, we have a reservation for them. According to the disability, there are 5 or 6 categories, and we have reserved categories for them. So we welcome them, and we nurture them, we provide adequate training to them, and we also have identified roles for them. Means according to the disability that a person possesses, we have identified roles which will be given to them. We ensure that persons with disabilities are not excluded, but get an equal and equitable chance to live their lives with dignity and economic independence. One of SBI Foundation's flagship programs is the Center of Excellence for Persons with Disabilities. This was launched with the goal of institutionalizing the inclusion and empowerment of PWDs. removing barriers to their employment and employability of persons with disabilities, and to spread greater awareness about the abilities of such people. We also have set up a DID center. It is the Dialogue in the Dark Center. I would request all of you to take some time off to visit the center, and there you will understand how the persons having no vision are guiding normal people with normal vision, how they're guiding them through various activities inside a closed chamber, which is pitch dark. So it is a great feeling when you visit that center. You get to understand that if God has deprived them of vision, God has also equipped them with other extrasensory powers so that they are able to lead a normal life. So DID is one of the examples of the Center of Excellence that I wanted to highlight to you. SBI Foundation and Microsoft India are committed to the shared vision of enabling inclusion and accessibility for all, and have partnered for Project SAMEIP, the SBI Foundation and Microsoft Employability Initiative for Persons with Disabilities. This initiative aims to equip youth with disabilities with industry-relevant skills, using the right technology infrastructure, curriculum, and training to be ready for a job and better prepared to be integrated into the BFSI workforce. Many young PWDs aspire to have a job in the financial services sector, and with the help of Project SAMEIP, their dreams are likely to come true. This roundtable has been organized as part of SAMEIP's objective of creating a platform to bring together various stakeholders, especially the BFSI sector corporates, to discuss and create pathways for inclusion of PWDs in this sector. I welcome you all once again to this roundtable and look forward to some enriching and engaging discussions on disability inclusion. The details of the Project SAMEIP will be shared with you by my colleague, Mr. Lalit Mohan. So thank you very much and welcome to this program.
Thank you, sir. More power to you, sir, and more power to SBI Foundation for these benefits that they invest in people. I want to say this kind of passion we look forward to in leaders who are able to decipher and grow not just individually, but take with them every deserving human being, fulfilling their dreams, and especially for the differently abled. So once again, thank you so much, Sir Shri Sanjay Prakash. I'd now like to call upon Shri Lalit Mohan, the President and COO of SBI Foundation. I'd like to introduce you to him before this. Shri Lalit Mohan joined SBI Foundation as the President and Chief Operating Officer in May 2021 with a graduate degree in Science and Law and a certified associate from the Indian Institute of Banking and Finance. He brings in more than 30 years of banking experience. He has worked extensively in the areas of branch operation, retail credit, MSME credit, agricultural credit, and financial inclusion at all geographies of the bank located at rural and urban and metro centers. He is passionate to the cause of social service and firmly believes in sustainable development goals. He wants to work in the direction of ending poverty in all its dimensions and craft an equal, just, and secure world for all of us. He has actively engaged in CSR activities at various levels in the bank in his past. assignments. He also believes you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome on dais Sri Lalit Mohanji.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very warm good morning and greetings from SBI Foundation. So, Kamesh has done my job easier by setting the context of today's roundtable. Just want to emphasize upon few statistics which becomes very important and vital before we engage for such type of a program. So, the data we have is as per 2011 census. When we say 2.1% of our population comes from the differently abled category, and we multiply this number, that number comes out to be between 20 million to 30 million people are differently abled. Out of these, 70% lives in rural areas, and if we talk about the employment, in working age group, only 26% have some type of jobs. And when we talk about the regular jobs, position become more worse when we say only 3% of these PWDs have regular jobs. Employment in public sector, only 0.55%. Employment in multinationals or corporates, only 0.05%. So that's why we all are here to deliberate what can be done to improve the condition at the ground and how we can all become agents of change to provide employment opportunities to all these differently able persons so that they can contribute for themselves, for their families, and contribute for the nation's growth also. So for that, I think we have devised a program, and we thank our partner, Microsoft India, American India Foundation Trust. We have come together, devised this program, SAMEIP, and now we are in the second phase of that program. So through this partnership, what we look for, imparting trainings, skilling and upskilling the person with disabilities, and enabling them to contribute by getting jobs in these multinationals, public sector units, so that they can lead a dignified life. First phase, we have already now into the second phase. First phase of the program is over, and some of the success stories are there, though small, but I think in the days to come, we will be able to say, right, that this SAMEIP program has at least set a benchmark that can be taken forward by all, by such type of partnerships in the days to come. So when we say near about 600 odd persons with disabilities were trained, skilled and upskilled in the last phase 1 of the program, and near about 58% of them able to get the jobs in the multinational companies, public sector companies, and that figures comes out to be little less than 350. And top employers were ICICI Bank, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, KPMG, Tata AIG, Max Life, Infosys, Wipro, Accenture, to name a few. And average salary earned by these individuals were in the range of 17 to 18,000. And comforting fact was that these youth could stand on their feet. They were able to contribute to the family as well as to the growth of the nation. So now we are into the phase 2 of the program, and what we are targeting to bring 100 like-minded corporates together, to sit together, dwell upon the issues, and devise strategies. We have our ground level partners, Win-Winia Foundations, Team Skills. Recently I was fortunate to have a visit at the center at Delhi, and I have seen the groundwork, how these people are being trained, how much efforts our trainers are taking to skill them, upskilling them, to enable them to be to get the jobs in the BFSI sector, IT sectors. So right now our target is more, we have doubled the targets, and we are now having a target of to skill 1,000 such PWDs and enabling them to get jobs in the IT and BFSI sectors. And in addition to this programs also envisages to provide retainership support to the 350 individuals who have been able to get the employment in the first phase of the program. So this is the third roundtable out of 5 roundtable we have planned for the second phase of the program, and we are confident that with the advocacy on part of our partners Microsoft, AIFT, we will be able to bring key sector players together for creation of a roadmap for inclusion of PWDs in the mainstreams. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Shri Lalit Mohanji. I strongly endorse your belief. You must be the change that you wish to see in the world. I think with leaders like this is where we will forge ahead. Leaders like this is help us inspire and motivate us to take us to the next level and to see what SBI Foundation is doing. Thank you very, very much for your note. Calling upon next, I'd like to invite Mr. Gunjan Patel, Head of Philanthropy and Community Engagement, Microsoft. I'd like to introduce you to him before that. Gunjan has served as the Regional Director for CSR at SAP for the Indian subcontinent. He has spent a decade spearheading and designing CSR strategy for SAP group of companies in the Indian subcontinent as well as in the Asian market units of South Korea, Japan, Myanmar. Gunjan is firmly passionate about the power of partnerships and collaborations towards a nation-building agenda. He founded SAP's flagship initiative called Unnati, which aims at leveraging strategic collaboration with SAP customers and government agencies to achieve the scale and replicate the educational initiatives. With the knowledge that India has vast, limited, tapped demographic potential in Tier 2 and 3 towns and rural areas, he is spearheading PPP models with UNDP and UNICEF towards youth empowerment through career pathway development and through system transformation vision. Shall I say, a benevolent human being who has devoted time and energy in humanitarian causes, and not just for SAP, but as a personal way of life. May I please now invite Mr. Gunjan Patel to come on the dais and share his views.
Yep. So good morning all, and thank you Michelle, thank you Kamesh, thank you Sanjay ji, thank you Lalit ji. So basically I am with Microsoft. I just joined 1 month back, so I think Michelle didn't have much to speak about what I've done at Microsoft. But yeah, it was an incredible journey for me all throughout, and this is where I find my passion. And importantly, I really believe in the power of collaboration. The kind of sustainable development goals that we have to look into, the 17th goal is very important, right? So that's the power of partnership. So I also want to, based on the power of partnership, thank everyone who is here today. Our partner, SBI Foundation and the SBI Group, AIF, who is a strong supporter in implementing the program, colleagues from the industry, BFSI sector, and the whole SAMEIP initiative. Essentially the initiative that aims at driving something in a collaborative manner that actually propel and augment the ecosystem for persons with disability. So that cannot be achieved without the power of partnership. So for that, I also want to thank SBI Foundation team for this wonderful initiative, SAMEIP, which is acronym for SBI Foundation and Microsoft Employability Initiative for Persons with Disability. And idea is to work collaboratively, and that is where AIF is helping us driving our mission and bringing it to fruition. And today we are at a very opportune inflection. December 3 is being commemorated as International Day for Persons with Disability. While the day alone should not be remembered or a call out for all of us, it's a 365 days, 24/7 activities, interventions imperative for all of us. And that also is a reminder to all of us gathered here and outside the room how we need to work collaboratively to achieve the goals for which the SAMEIP initiative has been curated and designed for. I also want to view this this whole statistics. So for example, more than 1 billion people in the world live with one or the other kind of disability. And it is also likely that most of us will go through one or the other kind of disability in our life cycle, either that can be temporary, permanent, or situational. But this is something that may become inevitable for us. And it has its own bearing. The practical, healthcare, economic, and most importantly, the societal one, and how that impact us, our family, and our communities. Also, combined with that is the educational and employment rates, which are abysmally poor for essentially for the people with disabilities, and they also lack the kind of access and opportunity, right? And what we have seen at Microsoft, based on our 25 years of experience that we worked on accessibility area, is that the persons with disabilities are also one of the largest talent pool that remain untapped by virtue of not having access or opportunity, or somewhere they were deprived this opportunity. So how the whole SAMEIP initiative can galvanize into bringing all of us together. Another component or another key objective for SAMEIP program is policy advocacy. This is the third roundtable out of the fifth one, right? The idea is how we actually make it consequential, how many companies, more private sector partners join forces here, how we actually see that this becomes an integral agenda for all of us at our workforce to ensure that the very important constituent of our workforce or of our population should be integrated holistically. So that is one area which we want to emphasize and want to send as a action for all of us today. And somewhere this also culminate into or tie down with Microsoft mission, that is how Microsoft intends to empower every person and every organization on the planet to do more. This cannot be achieved without us alone, and this objective is for the whole world and not for Microsoft alone. So how we do this? I think one of the things which we feel is the technology, and everyone would agree to that how technology has played that role. I mean, COVID time was one of those 2 years, or even after that, we realized that how technology increasingly and accelerated way became a part of our life. And how we leverage that technology, who better than Microsoft can do that? Or there are technology players, so how we, all of us, can come together. And then we combined it with the power of, let's say, SBI, who is again a thought leader and the largest banking conglomerate in India. So how we come together, and all of you, those who are sitting here today, can join forces there. I mean, the technology, the banking sector, and we have the opportunity to reach out to the last mile, to the underserved or unserved. And this is what we can do. I would just leave you with three-pronged approach that we want to see in our whole work. One is use case of technology. Second is how we can make workplace more accessible. And third is how our workplace accept the workforce that we want to see them. So this three-pronged approach is something we want to work, and this is what actually Microsoft believes in. We actually lives it day in, day out. it is needless to say that technology is inevitably a socio-economic enabler for most of the human endeavors. And we have adopted it. And COVID was one of the triggers which actually accelerated and propelled the use of technology for all our endeavors. And we at Microsoft has accessibility component in every work that we do, whether it's Microsoft 365 or any product that we take. Accessibility is core to it. And that's not a business priority, but that's our mission, and that ties to our mission, that how we help every individual to achieve more. So if we have accessible technology, we can achieve the objective of disability inclusion in our workforce. So that brings me to the second aspect, which is workforce. So the SAMEIP initiative, the collaboration between Microsoft and SBI Foundation, it actually intends to achieve that. How we make persons with disability to be trained for industries like us. How we work together here. We have BFSI Council, we have various stakeholders in the technology industry, and there is a huge opportunity for us to collaborate. Lalit just spoke about the statistics on job placement and all. This is just the beginning. We have a long way to go. Both of us have started together, and we really call upon each and every one of you to join forces, bring your thought leadership, bring your expertise, your network, so that we actually scale and expand the whole purview of SAMEIP program. Workplace, that is the last part, and this is again where Microsoft has taken a great leap or great lead into it to make the workplace accessible for each and everyone. And actually that is also another area which we should be further advocating upon. And with that, we are actually coming up with the toolkits which we'll launch today. So toolkit is a kind of standard operating process which anyone can imbibe into one's own workplace for one's own workforce, and how technology can be leveraged for it. And also we want to, there is a goal of 100 pledges. So I mean, goal and all are okay, but I think if we are inherently believing in this whole vision of disability inclusion, I think we don't need to take pledge. Our action speaks for it. So with that, I want to request you join forces on the SAMEIP program. We also invite your feedback and input so that we can take it back into our program to see how we can make it more meaningful, more enabling. With that, I want to thank each and every one of you to be present here. Want to thank again SBI Foundation for such a wonderful collaboration, Microsoft team, AIF team, without which this program would not have been possible, and of course those who actually are looking out for placement or jobs for the youth. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Gunjan Patel, for participating with SAMEIP and AIF in this venture. I am certain at the next roundtable conference we'll have much to say about your accomplishments with Microsoft. Once again, I want to thank you, all your dignitaries and all of you who've come and shared your thoughts with us on this podium today. I'm sure every thought is valued and every belief is taken strong of what you will achieve through AIF and towards SAMEIP and towards this organization. Moving forward, the most important element of this roundtable, that is our panel discussion for this morning. And I would like to first begin with introducing our moderator. We have with us on board Sajid Ali. He's the COO, Tech Mahindra Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Sajid Ali, please. Sajid Ali is a CSR professional with experience in education, skill development and vocational training, sustainability, social enterprise, sustainable agriculture, microfinance, healthcare and nutrition. Sajid has had a vast experience in the area of government relations, project design, implementation, research monitoring and evaluation, along with consulting and training. Today, we couldn't have had anyone more suitable to moderate this discussion for us. So ladies and gentlemen, may we please invite Mr. Sajid Ali to come on dais. Thank you. I would now like to invite and introduce our panelists. Like Vandana always says, every one of you are very important to us, but we've used an algorithm here to put you in alphabetical sequence, okay? So I'm going to start with introducing you and inviting you to the dais. I'd like to first start with Fiona Vadia. She's Manager People and Capability, South Asia. Fiona leads People's Business Partnering for Business Finance Center and supports the international market businesses at MasterCard South Asia. She is the People and Capability Lead for MasterCard's Mumbai location. She has 15 plus years experience in HR, in organization design and development, change management, talent management, and leadership effectiveness. She has a PG diploma in human resource management from St. Francis College and MS in organizational effectiveness, development, and change from the University of Delaware, USA. Fiona helps design and drive programs and initiatives in diversity, equity, and inclusion at MasterCard India, such as women entrepreneurship, parental support, alumni network, and women mentoring, to add to. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Fiona Vadia as she takes on the dais. Our next panelist, Mr. Rajesh Mehta, a postgraduate from the prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and currently working in IBM India Private Limited from June 2005. He has over 14 years of professional experience in multiple roles within the learning organization of IBM. After gaining valuable insights in university relations and corporate staffing, in the past 1 year, he has pioneered and hosted 130 podcasts for IBM for learning purposes across streams such as culture, leadership, technology, and many more. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Mr. Rajesh Mehta. Please put your hands together. Thank you, sir. Our next panelist for today, Sadaf Khan. Sadaf is a human resources professional and advocator of diversity and inclusion. After completing her post-graduation in industrial psychology from Mitibai College, Mumbai University in 2017, she has been working specifically in the talent acquisition domain. Currently, Sadaf is working with Accenture as a recruitment senior analyst. She holds over 5 years of experience in managing the entire cycle of talent acquisition 2016. Apart from her professional role, she is passionate about bridging the gap between D&I and has been involved in various activities undertaken by her organization towards D&I. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Sadaf Khan. Welcome on board, ma'am. Coming up next, our next panelist, Soumya Ranjan, our Chief Operating Officer, BFSI Sector, Skill Council of India. With over 2 decades of experience in the banking and the allied sector, Soumya at present is the Chief Operating Officer at the BFSI sector of Skill Council of India. Here, he drives and spearheads pan-industry engagement activity of the BFSI sector across all sub-verticals of the BFSI industry. He also supports international and domestic agencies in conducting research in finding out the future skill gap analysis with the BFSI industry and helping them implement projects for the underprivileged candidate and opportunities to enhance their skill and get a chance to work and to earn their livelihood. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Soumya Ranjan. And our next panelist, we have Mr. Vijayant Rai, the country head BFSI Microsoft India. Having over 25 years of work experience with leading international organizations, he has extensive experience of go-to-market, sales management, as well as managing business units. He is experienced in building high-performing sales, pre-sales, inside sales, marketing teams, and creating new marketing initiatives for businesses. With a strong background in both enterprise sales across verticals. As the country head of Microsoft India's BFSI segment, he has the overall responsibility of Microsoft's revenue and business from this segment and carries the Indian charter of partnering with financial service organizations in their digital transformation journey. Shall we put our hands together for Vijayant Rai? Ladies and gentlemen, our power table. Please put your hands together for all these panelists. May we have an amazing round of discussion today as I hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Michelle. So, good morning, everyone. Thanks to Microsoft, AIF, and SBI Foundation. And a special thanks to Lalit Mohanji and the team who created AVs. So, job is half done. We have already set the context. While I was looking at this slide and the word SAMEIP was coming again and again, so I think SAMEIP in Hindi means closure. So Gunjan, while you are not there, Microsoft already knew that you would be joining. So they have already collaborated and brought all the stakeholders closure. So big congratulations to the team who coined this term SAMEIP. Thank you for that. And before I jump directly on the question. So we have 80 minutes, as I'm being told, for the panel discussion. And we'll also reserve some time for question and answer. I'm sure all of you must be excited to clear your doubts, if not queries, from the panelists. And we have panelists from different backgrounds. Two of us are from BFSI sector. And rest three of them are coming from HR background, talent management, talent acquisition background. So we'll try to touch upon various aspects which speakers have already spoken about. So Rajesh, you are sitting right next to me. My first question is to you. You have been working with IBM for so long, and IBM is one company which has a long history of hiring persons with disabilities. Way back in 1910, IBM had a vision to follow even 110 years till now. And IBM was thinking of it before Americans with Disability Act, ADA, came into enforcement. So how has your experience been with IBM and this 17 years of experience?
Okay. Should I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or already good night? I don't hear any responses from the audience. You know, I always do this because if the audience is not accessible, what are we talking here? First and foremost, Michelle has set the ground rule, and that was heart to heart. अब यहाँ पर heart to heart क्या? Conversation में ही, you know, if there is a gap, if we do not get the reaction and responses, I don't think so this program would be anywhere successful. So good morning. This is what I wanted. All right. So thank you so very much for me having here. And I could see so many, oh sorry, I made a mistake, right? By saying I see. I'm a blind, sorry. All right, so I met so many familiar faces after so many years, after so many long break. And it's so very heartening to see people have reached so much ahead in this entire red race. One of the great example is Gunjan. Gunjan used to be my junior. You know, we were hostel mates, by the way. Now don't ask me what all he used to do there. Right? Right, let me quickly come to the question, Sajid, what you asked, because I know we have so much to discuss. You made a statement that IBM has a legacy or a history of hiring the disabled people. Let me clarify that on the record. IBM never ever hired disables. We hire talent. ये पहला बोल बच्चन था, by the way. ऐसे कई सारे आएंगे. You know, we never believe into the disability. And, you know, and that's where I want to really tell you a story this morning. If my audience and friends would like to hear that story. Yes, no? Thank you. I sound like a typical principal, right? Good. You know, I was reading about this particular episode, Sajid, how IBM hired the first blind person. And purposefully, I'm very conscious saying, I'm not using the word disabled. By the way, it doesn't matter to us what you call us, okay? Disabled, blind, visually impaired, or whatever. What you do, that matters. So IBM, the way they hired the first blind person was very interesting stuff. और ये by the way HR की सबसे पहली और बड़ी mistake थी IBM की. Let me admit that. I hope if I speak little bit in Hindi, you don't mind, right? क्योंकि उसके बिना kick नहीं आता है. Right? All right. So, you know, when IBM hired the first the blind person, HR wasn't even aware that he is a visually challenged. This man walked into the IBM office with a guide dog. Now, when he entered with the guide dog, people were like, अब क्या करें? अगर ना करे, US में थे, कायदे से सू कर देंगे. So करे तो क्या करे? And that's when IBM developed a very interesting thought process, and which even today we cherish. We never ever say what to do. We believe in saying how to do. I think this journey from what to how is a big shift. And that's where, if you look at, in fact, I heard not just today, but past few events that I have been doing past 1 week, thanks to 3rd December, once again. But everyone is saying DNI, 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 DNI. IBM has gone ahead again in this entire, space and said it's no more just DNI, but it is diversity, inclusion, and equity. How equity? How we bring equity? That, of course, we will cover on the course as we go along. But this is what the history is, Sajid, that we never knew that he was a visually challenged. When he came, rather than saying no, we decided to sit back and have that conversation. How would you do it? And that's where I think you only, kind of got this status to me, and I wasn't even aware that we hired our first blind man way back in 1910, exactly 110 years ago.
Thanks, Rajesh. In fact, lot of takeaways right from while you were saying Bol Bachan, but quite a profound statement to make. IBM hires talent and not PWDs. I'll come to you, Sadaf, for my next question. We hear this common term called PWD champion or D&I champion in the companies. So who are these champions, and what are your learnings from, repetitive hearing PWD champion, disability champion, all these champions? What do they do?
Sure. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here, first of all. So, Sajid, when you say PWD champions, again, my first thought is just if all of us had the same thought patterns and a right attitude towards persons with disabilities, this community of champions would not be even required, right? Now, what do these champions do? Coming to your question, is once a person with disability is hired in an organization, while the organization at large is, on the same path of hiring persons with disabilities, but there are a lot of other sensitizations and enablements that the candidates require or the employees require after they join, right? This group of people enable them to settle down in the organization and champion their growth or mentor them, as we say, in their entire journey. This group involves a lot of people from the leadership of the organization, and it also helps them grow in their skills by getting mentorship from the leaders of the organization. So that helps them in growing in the organization, not just settling down once they join us.
Thanks, Sadaf. So I was wondering why all of us can't be champions, and why do we need to appoint champions at workplace in first place?
Exactly.
So let's all strive to be champions in our own ways at workplace and need not have this title called PWD champion at workplace. So thanks, Sadaf, for highlighting this. But there are some myths also. I think Sir also spoke about certain myths. Kamlesh also spoke about myths. So there are myths, Fiona. And one of them is very much on the face that PWDs are less productive. What is your experience on this, being a capability lead?
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I think it's a myth because there are quite a few assumptions, and people go by those assumptions. They are just hearsays. Most of the times, what people do is that they hold a preconceived notion and stick to it and do not want to challenge what they believe in. I've looked at two aspects when it comes to productivity. One is, what does research say about productivity in people with disabilities? Research does not prove that people with disabilities are less productive. What research actually also says, which was an eye-opener for me, is that they as a talent pool have lesser absenteeism in the corporate world. Just think about that. We think that they would be the ones who would not be punctual or not be that diligent, but actually they are a group that are much more compared to the rest. The other fascinating fact that came out from research also shows that people with disabilities have a higher retention rate in corporates, and the longevity with the organization is longer compared to the rest. Now, having said that, it does not look like it is going to impact productivity in any way. Now, I look at it from an experience perspective. I have not at all seen people being less productive. In fact, what they bring to the table is creativity and thoughts of doing things differently. A unique perspective that they bring is actually propelling us to be more productive in the organization and does not take away from productivity. I think the myth has stemmed mostly because you look at disability and inability rather than looking at it as an ability and a diverse ability. I think that's where there is a gap, and that's where people start believing or these myths emerge from. But as a roundtable and as panelists and everyone here, we play an important role in busting these myths and making people believe that you need to question something when you think that it is wrong.
Thanks, Fiona. Ladies and gentlemen, no research-based evidence, no empirical evidence, Fiona says, which backs that PWDs are less productive. So thank you for busting that myth. That brings me to another myth, Vijayant, which talks about that, hiring PWDs is expensive.
Sure. First of all, good morning, everyone. And before I answer your question, Sajid, a date comes to mind, 24th Feb 2020. That's when actually Rajneesh Kumar, the erstwhile chairman of SBI, and Satya Nadella was in Bombay that day, just about 3 years ago. Jean-Philippe, who's our EVP, and Rajneesh Kumar actually launched this initiative of SAMEIP just about 3 years ago. So great to see the progress, where we are and how this is progressing. Great things to come, like Gunjan and Kamesh mentioned there. So look forward to that. To the question of myth, and I think it is a myth, it's just a myth that it's an expensive proposition. For anything, and our experience in Microsoft tells us that people with disabilities are an asset, right? In fact, we go to the extent of looking at it as a strategic hiring option which companies should have. Experience tells us that we make better products, we make much more accessible products by having people of disabilities in our workforce. So Microsoft has, and countless organizations honestly, have benefited by having people with disabilities as part of their product, part of it, technology part of it. Just to give you an example, if you look at Microsoft Teams, which people use for collaboration, simple captioning which you get there, doesn't only benefit somebody who's say impaired by hearing, but also everybody else. It's helped us create better products. Similar for automobile industry, similar for other places. So the point here is that it makes a lot of business sense. It makes a lot of business sense to have people with disabilities, gainfully employed and contributing in organizations like us. I think that the question is of intentionality. How intentional are you? How are you creating the frameworks within your organization to make this happen? But there's no question about it. I don't think it's a question of being expensive at all. It's just good business sense to have people of disability in the organization.
Thanks, Vijayant. We'll come to the business sense later, but I think since we are talking about the expense, Rajesh just today morning was showing me this wonderful yet simple innovation. Rajesh, would you want to talk about it?
So before even I go and show it to everyone, let me just set the context. What is the meaning of accessibility? Accessibility means through which we can also use the object, product, technology, infrastructure, everything. Now, accessibility is good for whom? For everyone, those who desire. And Vijayan, I must tell you, the captioning is not just meant for the hearing impaired. I must tell you, I use captioning so much for my language disabled friends, and which is the largest population in the world, right? I use it very much. Now, when things comes to the accessibility, let me tell you, the biggest accessibility, at least, and this is my personal view, okay? The biggest accessibility for me is the human approach, the human behavior. Someone asked me the other day, saying that, if everything becomes technologically accessible, how that day would be. I said, that would be my funeral day. Why? Because I will stop going to human. I will stop asking for a help. Right? But then, are we, don't we want things to be better on our accessibility? Absolutely yes. Now, many people says that accessibility comes with a cost, with a high expense. I would say yes and no. Yes, when you want to have an excuse. And no, when you really want to do it. So let me, go to the answer. I'm sure those who can see in the room, let me just stand up. Can you all see what is this? Those who are not, able to see, this is a Rubik's Cube that I'm holding in my hand. This morning, actually friend of mine who actually gifted me this, and of course I should give a complete credit to him, our dear and near friend, Mr. Jatin Virendra Shah. Unfortunately, he is not here. How many of you have played Rubik's Cubes? Oh, sorry. How many of you have this Rubik's Cubes played by your children at home? Wrong question, right? Huh? All of you? Just think about it. This Rubik's Cubes, if there is a blind child or a blind parents, how would he or she play with his children? And this, I must tell you, this is such a simply been developed. Can you see anything different on this? Oh, someone is clicking the photograph. This all comes with the premium, huh? All right. This, the people who probably are blind, my friends here, these are, kind of embossed textures being created by my friend and by, the like-minded people. Was this difficult to create? Oh, you are still figuring out, yes or no? No. I can't hear anything. Did you say something? Don't worry, still there is a gap for the lunch, don't worry. Say loudly, yes or no? Correct? Now, this required only a simple conversation. Let me, tell you, example, I'm right now touching yellow. Correct? Come on, yeah, you should clap, yeah. Being a blind, I can make out. It's not being a blind that I could make this out, because it was such a simply made accessible so that I can also play with my 5 years, 3 years, 4 years child. Right? It does not take anything more than just a thought. I think this all claps should go to my friend who actually gifted me. It was just, a thought process came to my mind while I was driving to this place. And I said, it would be fantastic, to demonstrate. Right? So if you have liked it, please give all kudos to Jatin Shah.
Thanks, Rajesh. So accessibility is not always expensive, and definitely it doesn't always come with a cost. So to you, Soumya, I would like to ask, there was a report which was supported by BFSI Sector Skill Council. The title of the report was Inclusion Journey, Integrating PWDs in BFSI Sector. So can you please share some highlights from that report?
Thank you, Shajid. Thank you everyone for inviting BFSI SSC over here to share their thoughts and views. The report that, Shajid, you are asking me to talk about, this was done with the intention to understand how the BFSI sector is accepting PWD candidates in their ecosystem. And what we found was that most of the PSU banks who have mandates from the government to take people into their ecosystem had taken initiative, a very good initiative. But still there is a gap between what they should have achieved and how much they have achieved. Reasons can be multiple, but the fact remains that they haven't found, they haven't got the candidates enough to.
Can someone fix this, please?
The reason for not able to fulfill the vacancies was not availability of the right candidates, skilled candidates. That was what we came to know from the survey. But also we came to know was the private sector, which is not very vocal about, we're coming out with advertisements talking of vacancies for PWD candidates. Do have taken initiatives, but the strength of PWD candidates in these companies are very low. But they're open. The only thing is that they say that we don't get a flow that is coming towards them, and if that has been made to them with certain inputs, I think most of them would be glad enough to look into it.
Thanks, Soumya. I think private sector bank, definitely SBI people are sitting here and they are the market leaders, both in banking as well as in hiring PWDs and talent as well. So thanks, Rajesh, for teaching me this today. Sadaf, have you, because I took help from Fiona and Vijayan to bust 2 myths, have you ever, because you work for HR department also, you are handling talent acquisition, so have you ever felt that there is a hiring bias in the mind of HR managers and also in hiring managers' mind?
Sadly, yes. And this bias comes into picture in various forms when we interact with hiring managers, interviewers, even sometimes our HR colleagues who are not aware of the disability. I keep on hearing questions like, hey, this is a hearing impaired candidate. How will we even train them once they are onboarded? And Accenture has been, providing all the enablements for all kinds of disabilities, but sadly they're not even aware. And sometimes people just assume what we could do and what we could not do. When I was going for my job hunts after my post-graduation, there were employers who, like Rajesh ji was mentioning, they did not know that I'm a person with disability. And when they got a shock by seeing me in their organization for an interview, they're like, hey, I didn't know about your condition. And I smiled and I said, what condition are you talking about? I don't think I have a condition, I have a disability. And so she was like, oh yeah, I meant that. And I said, okay, can I meet your boss? Because obviously they were juniors and maybe they would get a firing from their boss if they interviewed me. And sadly, I was not even allowed to stay there and meet the seniors. And I was not interviewed. Was this not a bias? The company just assumed what I could do and what I could not do. And sometimes, I have interviewers coming to me stating, hey, Sadaf, this is a job that will require a lot of coordination, client interaction. I don't think a hearing impaired candidate can, interact with the client. I said, why? Did you even check with them? Sometimes, people are very curious about what you would, as a person with disability do. And sometimes it's like just, oh, you're so inspiring and this happens in the interview. Do you even do that to another person whom you're interviewing? Do you guys do it? I'm sure you guys have interviewed a lot of people out here. Do you go to a general candidate and say, hey, you're so inspiring, I'm really inspired by you? Do you do that? Yes, did I hear yes? Okay, are you guys still figuring out whether you do it or not?
That's a tough one.
Or are you guys confused? Exactly, right? And that's how your bias comes into picture. I mean, I am a person with disability. I may be doing things as just like other colleagues of mine, but in different ways. And I do not become inspiring in any way just because I do something that others are also doing. Right? And I have the same senses. I lag one sense, unlike you all. Does that mean I have more senses? Yes or no? Right? I just use my other senses because of which those senses are stronger than my vision. You guys use your vision, and hence you guys are strong when you see something, right? Absolutely. And that's how the bias comes into picture, Sajid.
Yeah. Thanks, Sadaf. I think Ketan was the one who said right, figuring out. So yeah, all of us are figuring out, and let's not be politically correct, figuring out what to say and what not to say in this room, because we are all learning, right? So Rajesh and Sadaf are here, Vijayant and everybody, Fiona. So we are all here to learn. So let's not figure out. Whatever comes to you, just please ask, right? So thanks, Ketan, for that prompt. So bias exists, and sadly, yes, Fiona, you are leading capability. So how do we fix this bias?
I think what Rajesh...
I think that's both ways, bias in favor of and against also.
Yes. So I think what Rajesh and Sadaf did right now by, asking some questions is made us reflect. And I think that's why there was a pause, and quite a few were really thinking whether it's a yes or a no. And I think that's the first step towards overcoming any kind of biases that we may hold. There are implicit biases most of the times that we ourselves are not aware of. And questions like these make us think. And unless these questions get asked, we don't do that reflection. In a corporate environment and in organizations like a Microsoft or an Accenture, an IBM or a MasterCard, the environment that we create is to bring people from ignorance to awareness. And I think that's the journey that we all are in right now. So it starts from that first step. And we were having an interesting conversation at the table earlier today when Rajesh said that, I don't know why do we just have this one day in December there. Everybody talks about this and then it's all over, right? The noise has died down.
He said it's my day.
Yes. So if you think about it, maybe there is a percentage of population that needs to know about that day. Even if it creates some kind of buzz, people take some time to read about it or maybe talk about it, and that brings some kind of shift. So it is important. That may be really compelling for someone versus someone else who may be dedicated to this 365 days. So I think that's one important thing. The other being education. Most of us don't really know about these things and not educated enough. Sadaf spoke about hiring managers and these biases. How do you bring about that sensitization to what they are doing and how they are doing? Is through education or trainings that you lead or you lend them, or material that you share with them to read about it and to get more aware. The other thing that I learned about when we were preparing for this is also that the more you have a perspective sharing and the more you interact with people with disabilities or talent, the more positive your outlook would be towards this pool. That means that unless you really don't know how it is, or if Sadaf wouldn't have shared how she felt if someone said that you were quite inspiring, the other person may have assumed that by saying that, they are gaining brownie points. This candidate is going to join them. But in fact, it would have been the other way around, right? So that's on the bias piece. The other aspect of the spectrum would be that in organizations, you hire people with disabilities, and then the question would be, would this person then get an advantage because you've already hired them? Would they be the ones you would nominate for an esteemed program? Or would they be the ones who would get a chance to perhaps be there on the platform and talk about the organization's success? Trust me, with the ones that we have worked with in the organization, they don't want to be labeled. They don't want to be the poster child. They want to feel just like anybody else in the organization. That's where the piece on the DE, the equity, comes in, right? You've already hired, you've already made them feel included, but then if you still call them out, if you're still labeling them, and if you're still trying to show that you are different, you're not doing them any good. So bias in both ways is really important to think about. And if each one of us in the room here leave this roundtable with a thought that maybe we'd spend some time in reflecting on how our approach has been so far, and some time even on educating ourselves, I think we will go a long way in scratching the surface.
Yeah. Thanks, Fiona. Well said. In fact, biases are both ways and need to be handled smartly and judiciously, I would say. Vijayant, you have been creating high-performing teams, right? And bias comes even more profoundly when you talk about high-performing sales team, because then we all know what happens in sales team and other teams. So what are the behavioral changes required in non-PWDs in high-performing teams?
Sure, Sajid. In fact, just before that, I probably want to reflect what Sadaf said, and it got me thinking. If you just look at our talent pipelines and how many people with disabilities come through, it's pretty bad. You know, it's an admission I think everybody in every corporate possibly will have. Just the number of people who come through for interviews itself is very less, right? I mean, we have numbers globally, etc. Microsoft is probably one of the few companies which publishes our percentage of people with disabilities as well in the US. But there's so much work to be done. And with them, obviously, the consequent biases which you have to conquer right through. And what you talked about is the front-end customer engagement roles, which are expected to be very, sort of powerful roles, people, going out there and engaging customers, partners, all of that. There's obviously a stereotype which is built around all of those things. And I think very, very crucial to breaking those stereotypes is role modeling. So, I mean, just to give you an example, Microsoft, we are in this world of creating cloud computing and all of that. We're one of the forerunners there. It's an evolving space. It's a space where, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of new things being created, technical areas. And one of our most successful customer success managers, we call this persona, his job is that once you've started on a technical journey with Microsoft, to make you successful. He's responsible to make adoption of the technology happen, consumption happen. And this particular person, who's probably the best in the game we have right now, in our Mumbai office, is actually a person of disability. But I think the two key learnings when I look at his journey over the past 2 years has been the support he's got from the team, the environment which is being created. There's a lot of, Fiona talked about it, sensitization which we do as a program within Microsoft. From the day somebody joins, people come with different backgrounds. To sensitize them towards diversity, inclusion, people of disability, there are very deliberate intentional courses to sensitize folks that when a scenario comes in front of you, how should you actually look at that scenario? So you are prepared and trained for that. So that's an intentional investment which organizations should be making as a first. Second is creating that environment for that person to understand that, again, what Fiona mentioned is not, he's no different. He's supposed to perform, he's supposed to impress his customers, his peers and everybody else, but give him a level playing field to do that. And I think the team which works with him has done that. He's now a role model. So there are more people who are aspiring to be, and these are normal people who are just aspiring to come close to what this person delivers. So role modeling is a key aspect, I think. The environment we create, within the organization, the top-down motion, the tone which gets set, right, from the management, and we do a lot of very intentional exercises with our teams just to make sure that they're sensitized to these parts. So I think those are the aspects which are crucial here.
Thanks, Vijay. So we also spoke about Government of India's reservation policy for PSUs and government-owned organization, and some financial benefits also for hiring with persons with disabilities. But Soumya, is this exclusion while trying to be inclusive in nature? What's your thought on this? And non-government companies are also trying hard, but just a high-level thought. I know it's.
Well, see, if you ask me about the financial benefit that government is giving and whether that is is that going to give impetus to this hiring of people, P2P candidates? I think financial incentive is secondary for most of the companies. What is important for them is productivity. So if they are getting skilled manpower and they are going to be productive, I think that's more important for them. Today, this Apprenticeship Act, which has been there since 1961, and it has got momentum from 2014 onwards, where financial incentives have been given to companies across. Still, there are no takers. Forget about PWDs. I'm talking about normal. Because companies are there who say that there is no need of pushing us. Because we are capable, we are financially independent. You don't have to incentivize us to hire people. Because any which ways we want to hire people, because we need people. But the people need to be skilled. Pushing people to us and telling that, okay, take people and we'll give you money, doesn't make any sense. So what is required today is that if an environment is created where people who have aspiration to work in a particular industry, they get training, right training, so that they can go and demonstrate their abilities to the companies. There are companies like Microsoft or any other company over here who will take them in because they are looking for talent. They are not looking for excuses that I have got a number of vacancies available, kindly fit in, and let me go and tell the world that I have taken and fulfilled my mandate. No, they are looking for talents. So financial incentives, I think, is secondary, I will say. But if it is there, why can't we use it in our favor? So I think companies can actually use this financial incentive, help their HR team to, figure out how can they reach out to these candidates who are having some certain challenges, and that this financial incentive can be used to develop them, help them get skilled, and can be absorbed into the system.
Yeah. So thanks, Soumya. I think you and Vijayant, both you are directing us towards that you are not getting enough talent to hire. Companies don't need any motivation. So we'll come to the skilling part of it probably towards the end of this discussion. But Rajesh, one of the main reasons that company often gives, and you have briefly touched upon this, is that our infrastructure is not accessible, therefore we are not hiring persons with disabilities. Is that a very strong reason to give for not hiring PWDs? And how much accessibility should we expect from the employers?
It's a very catchy moment or a dilemma where even myself, including myself, I'm still figuring out who came first, chicken or an egg. Does my audience has any answer? They are also figuring. So we're all together, right? We are sailing through the same boat. The point here is, I would re-emphasize what I said, and I apologize if I'm repeating my statement. Accessibility means what? I have failed to understand. I have been a blind for 34 years now, to be very precise. Please don't judge my age. But accessibility for me is the human approach, the way we, kind of try to solve the problem. In fact, I can loudly tell you this. The people who are demanding accessibility, are their home itself are accessible? No. Are they not managing it? I asked my dad this morning, Papa, is your behavior accessible to me? He said, it depends. Whenever you want it, you can make it accessible. Whenever I do not want to make it accessible, I will not. That's where this entire catch 2020 an IPL match could be concluded. Those who want to do it will do it. Those who do not want to do it, even after coming to this hall, this program, they will not do it. Simple. Sorry, I was a bit loud and blunt, but that's the reality.
Thanks, Rajesh. So I think Fiona also at some point inside said that human behavior should be accessible and infrastructure can be made accessible. If it is there, good enough. But even if you want to add? Yeah, I want to add.
In fact, at times, it makes me also uncomfortable. I went to one of this leading hotelier, and of course I can't reveal the name because otherwise they will create a problem for me. When I went to stay with them, they pushed me into their accessible room. Literally they pushed me. They said, we have created for you, you should stay there. But then it should be also my choice, right? Same thing happened even within my own organization, and I can certainly take that name because they are very dear and near to me, IBM. When we had created accessible washroom, obviously they wanted users. Without users, nothing could be succeeded. And they said, why don't you use PWD washroom? I said, when I can go into the normal washroom, why do I need to go to the specially designed PWD washroom? Now I know that here, what is wrong, what is right, I will leave it to your decision. But just because we are creating the infrastructural accessibility does not mean that compulsorily we have to use it, right? That's where I often say that, in fact, just day before yesterday, I was talking in one of the conference similar to this. I told you, right, these are our week. All of a sudden, within 3 days, 6 events are done. The rest all year, I was sleeping. So, you know, I must tell you this, day before yesterday, I was talking and they said, Rajesh, if we want to hire a PWD, what all we should be ready? I said, mindset. Mindset. I must tell you, I was working with Nestle. I hope no one is here from there. Okay. Which is, package itself is inaccessible. Huh? Now, the point is, I was working with Nestle, and they said, Rajesh, we want to, you know, kind of do this audit for our plants, and we want to do so many things. I said, you do everything. But पहले शादी का मंडप करने से पहले दूल्हा और दुल्हन को तो लेकर आओ. बाद में पंडित कौन है, बाद में मंडप कौन कहां बैठाना है, वो सब देखेंगे. But for me, bring that person in so that on the go, you understand what exactly he or she required. Because let me tell you, and confidently I can tell you this, though me and Sadaf, we are totally blind, including even many other my friends like Ketan is also sitting here. But still our individual requirements are different. Accessibility cannot be ever generalized. Different folks require different strokes. Right? So that means many a times, I face this challenge quite often in IBM. They said, हमने तो compliance कर दिया था. मैंने बोला compliance किया था ना. Humankind कहाँ किया था? Right? So my point is, stop reading those US books for the compliance. Those are good. Good for theories, but not for the practicalities. So I'm not again saying that you should not, kind of comply in it. You should, no doubt about it. But then when you are making any product accessible, have you even got those actual user to use them? A different profiles, have you brought them to use it, right? Lastly, I'll just leave you with one more example. We were testing accessibility for one of the airport authority in the world. Of course, I can't reveal their names. And they said that, this entire accessibility product have been tested by the users. But then I checked it. I also offered my wife is a low vision, by the way. So I also said that I can bring my wife. She also tested. And let me tell you, it was not at all accessible for at least me and my wife. We were not able to do it. Probably we were not talented enough, right? But then the whole conversation started. They said, okay, we will put the braille labels. We will do this. But again, you can't really generalize saying that every blind would be knowing the braille, especially today's blind. May or may not. Now, if you say that, okay, fine, we can only do this, that's also fine. I'll give you one very interesting, probably a thought here. Microsoft is such a brilliant, accessible company. But when we start our system, Windows, Vijayan, this could be a feedback to you. When we start the Windows, a totally blind does not get any clue, which I used to get till 2005, 2006. Whenever we used to start the Windows, it used to give us the beep. Sorry? Okay. Now, this is where the solution lies. My experts, engineers, they are tired finding this solution, right? But do we have those solutions there? That's the problem. Does everyone are aware of this? That's the problem.
Thanks, Rajesh. This brings me to another point. Both the ladies are taking turns, so thank you for that. But do we actually need it? Do we have people who need sign language interpretation? Bandna, can you please check? Okay, that's fine. So that's precisely fair enough. But yeah. Okay, so next question to you, Sadaf, is many companies claim to be equal opportunity employer, to the extent that we have also seen specific JDs created for PWDs. Is it some kind of discrimination or unconscious bias? Conscious bias?
Obviously, it is a conscious bias. I think Rajesh already responded. But so, I have seen a lot of companies earmarking roles for persons with disabilities. And these are roles that are such as customer operations, the low-lying fruits, as some of us call it. And sadly, because they have no choice, a lot of persons with disabilities go there and apply, and they are left with low income, leading to a lot more problem later in their lives. Here, when you're calling and you're saying that we are striving, aiming to become equal opportunity employer by putting out roles stating this is only for persons with disabilities, please send in your resumes, blah, 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 you are already discriminating. So I have hired a lot of, and my very big portfolio in Accenture is hiring persons with disabilities, apart from the general recruitment that we do. And I mean, a lot a lot of candidates we've hired for cloud computing, for various niche skills into SAP, etc., that are persons with disabilities and doing phenomenally well in the organization. I've hired hearing impaired candidates interacting with the clients into various roles that require a lot of coordination, communication, etc. I've hired a lot of visually challenged people who require to do a lot of reporting, those fancy reports that we make in our corporate world. So why are you even discriminating here is, sadly, which a lot of organizations don't realize. I don't think this is required when we are looking at becoming more diversity and equality organizations, making our DEI ratio more equitable. I think this is a mistake that a lot of organizations do a lot of time.
So are you saying that's not required at all?
That's not required. You're assuming, again, you're bringing in your idea of what we as persons with disabilities can do and cannot do. Right? And I mean, again, this also leads to a lot of comparisons at a lot of time. Rajesh was talking about something that I may need as an accessibility or assistive aid, he may not need it. And so when an employer interviews a person with disability, a lot of time there's a generalization that, this person whom I hired in the past was not able to do this job, and so she has a similar disability, she'll not be able to do it. Yeah. Did you even give me a chance to do it? Did you even give me an opportunity to try to do it? You ask me questions, you assess me, just like the way you do. Do you have similar situations when you interview general candidates? You do, right? Sometimes some candidates don't know what others may do, and then that is the reason why they are hired. And same approach is required here. Why different?
Thanks, Sadaf. So that's not required at all. This brings me to creating specific JDs. BFSI Sector Skill Council and all of us are in habit of skill mapping, right? Which disabled person can do what kind of job role. And that's very common. It comes very naturally to us to map the skills that can be done. So what role can BFSI play, sir, keeping Sadaf's point in view? And in job identification, again, not mapping exercise, so to say, and job carving to leverage the potential of PWDs.
See, specific to the BFSI sector, the jobs that are available, and if you try and do the mapping of the skills required to do the job, definitely it's very essential. One needs to know that what skills are required. But if you look at from the a PWD candidate fitting into the particular job, based on the skills that he can demonstrate, based on the skills that he has, this mapping definitely is important from the training point of view, because it's not necessary that even a normal person has the skill. So the skill mapping is not meant only for the PWD candidates, it's meant for a candidate for a job. Okay, so that's the most important thing. Of the different skills that is required, if a PWD candidate is able to acquire all those skills, okay, then he is a perfect fit for the job. So there is no need of defining skills for a particular set of people. Skills are for the job. People need to fit into the skill so that they fit into the job. That's what I would say.
Absolutely correct. So Vijayant, I wanted to come to you earlier, but this is something unique that Microsoft is doing, at least in my knowledge. I don't know if other corporates are doing. Microsoft hosts these ability hiring events, something called inclusive interviews, and provide interview accommodations to increase diversity. So what is that for our all understanding?
So I think very specific events, and like I said, it's, and I was listening to Sadaf talking about, how do we bring in candidates and how they're treated, should they be treated differently, or, so, and the thought came that, at one side we say need to be intentional, right, in terms of how do we source candidates. And second is how do we then make sure that it doesn't look like, it's deliberate in terms of the way you look at it. So I think all of this talks to different practices Microsoft is building towards hiring, far more inclusive way of hiring, inclusive way of looking at sourcing talent as well. And then incubating that talent for further work. So it's pretty much to do with the things like neurodiversity hiring, which Microsoft does for very specific kind of candidates and profiles. So it's that level of sophistication it's got to. So if you look at it, and to Gunjan's point when he was earlier speaking, there are probably three tenets we look at when we're looking at people with disabilities. The first is technology, second is the workforce, and third is the workplace. And how can we actually, enable all of that to happen? The key differentiator over the past few years, and I think that's something, everyone needs to realize, is technology has really leapfrogged from what it can do for people with disabilities to be almost on a level playing field with everybody else. Are we using it? No. Are we, for example, using it to up-level the, the profile and the areas they can operate at? No. To Sadhav's point as well, right? I mean, essentially, are they getting, and the point which, the SBI Foundation was talking about, the salaries which, for example, they're currently getting after we place them. Can it be better? I guess so, right? Because technology does exist to get them to do jobs which are of a much, much higher nature. We are seeing it in our tech companies because, we probably have those environments to make it happen from a workplace perspective, workforce perspective. But even in BFSI, we believe right from the front office, back office, mid office, all of that, you can have people, who can operate at all levels because technology is available now. The AI, cognitive technology which are available, is there intention to do it? And is there a will to do it? I think that's something which every organization needs to introspect and probably work on.
Thanks, Sujan. So already 12 o'clock, Manna, so we have, I think, used 55 minutes. So I guess I can take 10 more minutes. Yeah, so few important points towards the closure. Thanks for having patience, audience. But next question to you, Fiona. Hiring, we have spoken about. We have also spoken about skilling. But common problem which organizations face, not just with PWDs, but across board, when you don't give them the growth opportunities, they feel stagnated in their career, especially when PWDs feel that the colleagues who have been hired alongside them have grown in their careers and they have stuck. And this precisely is when you map the skills, right? That you can do this much. Beyond that, what is the career progression for PWDs and why organizations are not investing in career progressions?
So before I get into the specifics with people with disabilities, let me tell you career progression is a challenge across the board, right? Absolutely. It's something that you would hear anyone saying. Organizations have focused so much on diversity and it started with gender. We're now moving beyond gender. And even if you look at women who've been able to reach at the top, the percentage is really, really low, though there have been investments made. So if you draw the parallel with people with disabilities, I don't think it's going to be any different. That's the bitter truth that we're all dealing with right now. But is there a discrimination or a bias that has led them not to reach at the top? I don't really think, because Vijayant has also said, we strive to provide a level playing field once they are hired. We would do a very thorough assimilation plan for them. We would be putting in efforts in skilling and educating them. However, I think the focus remains very close to when they are hired and 6 months into the organization, and then they are with the rest trying to find an opportunity for themselves. I think the challenges that I've heard from working with people with disabilities and as an HR professional, understanding what is it that they feel they're not able to move to the next role, sometimes is more a systemic or a cultural issue that may happen, where they feel they've not been able to build the kind of social networks that others have able to build in the organization. Maybe it's a lack of confidence that they feel that the organization is not being quite supportive as much as they were initially when they started. The other thing could be the stigma that they still believe, or sometimes people could be insensitive. So if it is not a culture of respect and decency in the organization, they're just lingering on in that role and say, maybe I shouldn't even apply because I don't think I'll crack it, and I don't know what kind of feedback I'm going to get for that. They would be skilled, but sometimes the will is going to drop because of the environment or the ecosystem they operate in, right? So that's where organizations are getting intentional to see that we are creating ecosystems where they're able to thrive and move ahead. And even it happens with women who come back from a career break who find it very difficult, wherein they're still labeled as, oh, she just got back from a break and now she's aspiring for a higher role within 1 or 2 years. Just give it time. There are people here who've been here for 4 years and still not got a career move. So the perspective that we take needs to be well-rounded. It's the acceptance factor as well. I think working on their confidence and providing them the opportunities still remains. But discrimination, I can confidently say I don't think there's discrimination in saying that someone else shouldn't get the opportunity just because of the disability, because we don't focus on that.
Absolutely. So we are living in a fast-moving world, so skills become redundant. Rajesh, I'll come to you to add on to what Fiona said. Career progression on the basis of merit. What are the upskilling tips and any initiatives that you are aware of that keeps anybody moving, not just PWDs, but anybody moving?
My biggest recipe for the career development, if I have achieved something in past 18 years with IBM, has been IJP. And let me tell you, don't use your brain here. It's not internal job posting I'm talking. I'm talking about internal Jaan Pehchan. Networking was working, networking is working, and networking will work, whichever the COVID hit us. That's number one. Number two, I do say that for me, the biggest strength has been ask. Again, don't use your brain. When I'm saying ask, I'm not saying keep questioning. Ask for me stands for attitude, skill, and knowledge. I do agree, skill is the currency. And as you rightly said, skill gets very, very redundant, very fast. But still for me, the biggest strength has been the attitude and aptitude. You may have a skill, you may have a knowledge. But if you lack the attitude, you are square to zero. Now, when I'm talking about attitude in terms of my visually impaired or any form of the differently able person, is the biggest key there is acceptance, adoption. I am blind, but the world that I want to live in is not a blind. Right? Now, I want to be the part of their system, but then before they even accept it, am I also accepting this world the way it is, beautiful? Have I done anything to change this particular world? Yes, I have done. But then, whenever I have tried with aggression, trying to push, saying that, oh, this is not working, that is not working, etc., etc., believe me, it actually leads to a backfire. I can give you hundreds of examples. I must tell you this, each role, I have changed almost 5 roles within IBM, and I make sure that every 3.5 years, I change my role. Right? Whenever I have gone to pick up a new role, I agree, IBM is an inclusive organization. Right? It's a very, very inclusive organization. But let me tell you, each IBMers are me and you. having the same brain, having the same mindset. So whenever I have changed my roles, I have gone through the similar journey, convincing them, saying that, yes, I can do. Today, whichever the level that I might be, but for the world, I am a blind person. And that's the reality. There is no second thought about it. So when, my recent role, right, I wanted to, do it, and I was doing it globally. They were like, how would you manage this technology? What will you do? I said, that's where we need to sit down. That's where we need to, think through. And that's where I bring I see this as an opportunity, right? Now, that's where to make many of this technology accessible. We created entire path working with third-party vendors, the external companies like Cisco and, whatnot of the world. And let me tell you, that's where also it was me getting into the discomfort zone. I got into a journey which I had never ever thought about, which I never ever had any expertise or not even a experience. But then my manager reminded me my own Bol Bachchan, saying, Rajesh, you only used to say, nothing is rocket science. So ab karo. But let me tell you, when I was experiencing this whole new particular stuff, I realized there is so much to learn, there is so much to unlearn, and there is so much to relearn. On that particular basis, I think fire is on both the sides, as at the candidate side as well as at the organizational side too. And that's where I think we often make a biggest mistake by just drafting a policy and putting it on the self-deposit vault. Many a times, even the policy which has been created 10, 12 years ago or 20 years ago needs to be reconsidered, because many a times the policy can be also a detrimental. So, net, in short, I think it's, we are all marathon runners. We all are getting the beautiful experience on the journey, but believe me, we all want to see that, yes, destination we all want to, reach much faster. But then, are we breaking the relationship on the way, or are we creating those beautiful journey-based relationship? Right? So that's what is very important.
Thanks, Rajesh. So, staying relevant is important. Attitude is differentiator in career progression. And as Rajesh puts it, networking, internal Jaan Pehchan is also very important. So you should network not just internally, but externally also. So coming from your own staff to your customers, Sadaf. So many companies, especially B2C companies, and in BFSI sector also, yesterday I was just out of curiosity, I was checking how many companies are having their website accessible. And trust me, I can't even reveal the embarrassment that I have to go through, especially companies dealing directly with customers. So it's a horrible state. What is your thought on this?
I think the world knows it. Technology is a huge enabler for all of us, but at the other side, it poses us a lot of challenges. Day in and day out, building accessible platforms is important, and I don't think we can reach you can give a level playing field, as we call, unless your internal platforms and all your platforms are accessible. Sadly, let me quote an example here. A lot of times, and I just 4 months ago, not even 4 months ago, I have filed a complaint against one of the investment companies that was not opening my account because I'm a person with blindness. And I was talking to the legal head of this company, and my lawyer was talking actually, and he said, oh, you know, we don't have a setting of providing relationship managers, and so how will a person with blindness invest? How will she do the trading and the day in and day out selling and buying shares, etc.? So I told my lawyer, if need be, I'll be sitting down with him and I'll be demonstrating. I'm open to guiding you to make your platforms accessible and your policies in a way that are not discriminatory. But they were not open to it. And we said, okay, document it. Tell me on email stating that you cannot open my account because I'm a blind person. And he did it. So I said, all right, if you are documenting this, why not go to the CCPT and file a complaint? And I did that. Immediately after filing a complaint, and SEBI was in loop all this time, and immediately after I filed the complaint, I filed the complaint on Saturday, and Monday I had executives coming home to create my account. Where did this come from? So why I stated this example is because accessibility, if is taken care of, it provides a lot of enablement opportunities and a lot of independence to not just persons with disabilities, but also all of you sitting out here who are not, so-called able-bodied individuals. Yeah. So I don't think accessibility is only for us. There is a terminology called user-friendliness, right? So when you're making things accessible, you're also making it user-friendly for your general population or users, which sadly is not. There are so many websites, internet banking websites, other platforms of investments that require CAPTCHAs. And those CAPTCHAs are images. Some time ago, when I was trying to, and I'm not going to shy away from taking out this name because it's like a universal thing for all employees. But so when I tried to log into the EPFO portal, there was an image that was a CAPTCHA, which my nephew was not able to read because it was so unclear. How would I even use my screen reader and do an OCR to figure out what is in the CAPTCHA? I agree it is inaccessible, it's an image, but even if I have to use something else to make my independence come into picture, that's not going to be possible. So when you are, putting up audio CAPTCHAs along with your image CAPTCHAs, you're not just paving way for us as visually impaired, but you're also enabling some of the senior citizens who may not be able to see as much as others can. My nephew was not able to. He's like an 8th standard. Yeah. I don't think his sight is impacted.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. I'll come to you, Rajesh, once we're towards the closure. I'll definitely come to you for the last comments. But there is a long distance between being accessible and being user-friendliness, and also from policy to practice. So Rajesh, we have 3 minutes left, and I want to go to Vijayant also, and then to Soumya. But you can complete your quickly. You can complete your point if this is related to.
It was very tempting what Sadaf was mentioning about. Let me just quickly ask you. In local train and metro train, how many of you are using, their announcements? Do you? Are you sighted? No, apart from the blind people. Anyone who's saying, yes, I do listen, in metro or local train, which is the next stop or whatever. Please start paying us. Oh, they also make a mistake? All right. We will, that's the consulting for us. Right. I can give you so many other examples, but very quickly. There was a breach in Singapore which actually Singapore government created specially for the pregnant lady to cross the road. Let me tell you, more than a pregnant lady, this bridge, and I can actually present the data point, was used by even others. And there are so many great examples, right? That accessibility, what meant for just one particular section of the society, could be utilized for so many others. And that's what, I wanted to, kind of make a point. Thank you, Sajid. Back to you.
Thanks, Rajesh. So very profound statement, making it user-friendliness rather than thinking of accessibility. But Vijayant, coming to you, as many companies are now exploring work-from-home possibilities, and therefore further no reason of accessibility-related barriers, do you see any job roles coming up for PWDs also in this new scenarios?
No, absolutely. So, like you said, this whole COVID period saw a massive acceleration of technology, right? As well as making technology accessible in different ways, which we earlier didn't think. We made technology for workplaces earlier. Then all of a sudden you had this 2-year period with the world went through and we had to actually reinvent everything. And I think that's an opportunity because technology has got better. The way we look at it today, if you look at any organization, maybe a BFSI organization, any organization, it's a tech organization. You would do everything with technology. You would use a computer or a mobile phone to do different actions. So I think people working from home, the enablement, all that is already there. So the tech is there to make it happen. And that just opens a new sense of, or a new area of opportunity for people with disabilities completely. And I think it's how we deploy this technology, create use cases which are beneficial and bring them into the workforce is what's going to make the difference. But technology exists, absolutely.
Thanks, Vijay. So I think work from home is another thing which can help in hiring PWDs if you don't have any other. But last question to you, Soumya, before we wrap up. Skilling of PWDs in BFSI sector, what are the challenges and opportunities considering whatever we discussed in last 80 minutes? And definitely, what can we expect from BFSI Sector Skill Council?
Yeah. If you ask me for the challenge that I see as a council, the biggest challenge that we ourselves are handicapped to train. Because to train, we need to know how to deal with them. We are, I have a feeling in last couple of minutes that I've been here, and I feel that I should be a part of the PWD also, because I don't have the ability to train people. So the first and foremost thing that we require is people skilled enough, knowledgeable enough to deal with skilling others. Okay. And if that can be made available, which is there is what do you call a lack of good trainers. If that can be done, if that is possible, that is available, I think a lot of beneficiaries are there who can get value added, and then they can go back to the employer and present themselves. The point is that we are still sending raw candidates. I'm not talking about only PWD, I'm talking about normal guys. They just go face the run and then they come out saying that, hey, this company is a hire fire company. So it's a mismatch, which is not their fault. They have not been trained. So I have a big challenge over there. And in fact, I just met Vinmaya, what is the name? Yeah, so I think we need more of these kind of institutions which come up and do this activity with a purpose, with the sensitivity that they are dealing with somebody who is challenged.
So yeah, I think we understand doing it alone is difficult. Gunjan, more collaborations required from SAMEIP to probably NICUT. So SAMEIP is close, but NICUT is closer. So we need more partners to join in these kind of platforms. So I think for question and answer, we will open up. I had few more prompts which I wanted to discuss. I thought Bandna is gracious enough to give us 80 minutes, but I think 80 minutes was not enough, at least for me and the panelists. Definitely over the tea, you can check with Rajesh on integrated approach, accessibility approach that IBM is using. You can talk to Fiona about the accessibility card, accessible card that MasterCard has launched. We also have something called Disability Equality Index, which is being very nicely used in US. You can talk to this about, to Sadaf, so she knows about Disability Equality Index and how it is helping companies to evaluate their own accessibility on different metrics. So that is it from the panel. Just to summarize, few profound statements that the panelists make. Hire talents, don't hire persons with disabilities. And that's my biggest takeaway. Human behavior is the biggest differentiator, if not technology. So, I mean, we should have the correct mindset. We don't need PWD and disability champions. We all should be the champions, and we all are the champions. So I think with this, we close the panel discussion here. We will be open for the questions now.
Thank you. My name is Shiva Jagopal from Vinmania Foundation. We have been training persons across disabilities, and trying to place them in different companies, right? And we also talked about some role models from Vijayant, you talked about it, Lalitji talked about 70% of the persons with disabilities are from rural. And there is another data point which talks about only 6% of the people are graduates, right? So there is an expectation from the company that these people should be skilled. But be it the education system or whatever we have, there is a huge gap. There is a reality, whether we like it or not, right? So recently what we started doing was when we were trying to place persons with neurodiversity, instead of giving resumes, we created PPT portfolios wherein there are videos. So the question that I have, especially for the companies which are ready to recruit, is how can they change their recruitment policy and look at it from what is the strength that they can demonstrate, right? Then that is one thing. And the second thing is, we talked about productivity and we talked about productivity, it's all the same. I have not seen it. I have recruited people in my private company, in my foundation. It takes 2 to 3 years for them to be as productive as a person without disability. After that, they are almost on the same page. For 15 years of education, we are not giving them equal opportunity. Suddenly, in 3 months training, you cannot make magic, right? So I think we got to give a leverage. We got to give a slightly longer runway. So my question to the companies is that, number one, what are the new ways of recruitment we can look at? Number two is, once you take them in for integration, can you give them a slightly longer runway, right, for them to succeed?
So I think, Fiona, you would want to take it. This spoke about neurodiversity also.
So Shiva, on the neurodiversity hiring, I think that's come into the focus right now. MasterCard has done a pilot program actually, but in the US, but I'll still speak about it, where we looked at hiring diverse cognitive abilities, right from ADHD to autistic to dyslexic. And we realized that the recruitment process that we have, the traditional way of maybe resumes and then taking assessments, may not be suitable for people who may have learning differences and be able to prove themselves in that stipulated time that you provide. What we've done is that over a period of 5 days, there was a virtual hiring that was done, and it was tailor-made for neurodiverse pool. Instead of saying that in 30 minutes you come, write a code and present, the time factor was removed from the entire process. It was about what would you be able to showcase to us within, say, the time that is there in the entire hiring process to talk about your capabilities, and we left the mode to the candidates itself to decide, right? So we didn't go with the traditional approach. So those were some of the thoughts that we are piloting. Depending on how it really goes, we'll be able to kind of then take it to the next level. But it doesn't stop there with hiring. Like you said, and I said earlier as well, where we struggle as an organization is that when we bring them in, we sensitize the managers on how to manage or encounter situations that may happen with this pool, but we then drop the ball somewhere saying that they'll be able to navigate their way. So the assimilation plans that are there are of a shorter duration. And then we switch to skilling and reskilling and upskilling. I think that's the gap that we are trying to bridge, to handhold them for a longer period of time, to see that they'll be able to then merge with the entire work stream. And of course, the choice is with them if they'd like to continue. And the other part that has worked for us is we've looked at providing a mentor and a buddy when they join us, and a mentor to take it to the next level for them from a career perspective. So we've assigned mentors. Then we also realized that assigning a mentor based on what we think is a good fit for them is not the right approach. So we went ahead and asked them to find mentors for themselves based on a good match. So they could look at profiles and decide who they want as their mentor and sign up for a mentoring relationship with them. And they could decide whether it's a 3 months, 6 months, or what the duration looks like. So I think these are the small efforts that we are trying to make. And it's a drop in the ocean when it comes to neurodiversity. There is a long way to go, but I'm happy that we've been able to even think of this group. Earlier, it was only about disabilities where it's more visible and apparent. Now we're talking about learning differences.
Thanks, Fiona. Any other question?
Actually, they're waiting for them to speak.
So basically, I think this is a question where, of course, this has been a discussion in our last roundtable also. This whole thing about graduation, right? Vis-a-vis a skill set. Now, we are not saying that, we change or transform the whole system, and in this case, it is a positive discrimination and accommodation. But how do we solve this problem? Because, there is a set of, problems that they have faced, and education system and accessibility of education has not been there, which means that, that core criteria of a degree may not have been there.
Yes.
But the efforts of a lot of organizations are going towards developing their skills. But the barrier that happens, and I completely agree with Shiva, is that the moment you say it's a graduation, it's like, you've not even made the...
Yeah, so you're not even eligible.
Right, so if you're not
Yeah,
eligible,
I'll come
how
to
do you present that candidate?
Right.
And how, my first question is it even practical for a organization or an NGO to expect that organization will change? Have some of the organizations changed that and found success? Because if that success is there, we would like to take that to more corporates, because this is a huge barrier, and we should look at skill. We can invest 6 months into skill, but we cannot create a degree which is a 17-year-old
Correct.
historical thing. It is structurally important.
Yeah, so I think today morning Rajesh was speaking precisely about this, so I'll hand it over to Rajesh.
We at IBM, we strongly believe that we invite diversity to a party and we make inclusivity to dance. Deep thought, right? If those who probably did not get it, I will repeat. We believe diversity to we invite diversity to a party and we make inclusivity to dance. Kamesh, this is where we actually spearhead. Couple of years ago, as a friendly discussion, discussion on a chai or a coffee, we were saying that, this degree word is creating a nuisance. Just because I'm from TISS, just because I'm from Excel, just because I'm from IIMS, मैं कितना भी उल्लू हूं, मेरे को बड़ा पैकेज मिलेगा ही. Correct, no? At least हाँ तो बोल दो यार, right? अच्छा मैं उल्लू ये पक्का है. अब दूसरी side, look at it. Just because I was been taught under the name of maths and science because of certain limitations back at our school, कि किस तरह, उपमा banana hai, ya how those, it was adjustments to make us get there under the name of maths and science. But then, when the whole discussion was happening, we said, after all, these are human beings, right? And if they could be taught, let us see, let's experiment. And हम लोग ने IBM में experiment चालू किया. We said, degree से भी बड़ा होता है enabler. Right? We all call them mentor, coach, Kung Fu Panda, and whatnot. But then, when we started experimenting this, we have a lovely programs, and I can probably talk about them briefly, though I'm not expert on those programs. But we broke the barrier, and of course, many others joined the bandwagon. हम लोग ने at one time in IBM, to get through IBM, graduation was mandatory. But now, we broke that barrier. We said, it's not the degree which makes the person, it's the passion which makes the person. और हम लोग ने undergraduate vocational training वालों को भी लेना चालू किया. In many countries we did that. In fact, in India also we did that. And let me tell you, this has been a 5th year. In fact, one of the ceremony where I was invited very recently, and I was reading through their entire achievements, and results are really, really eye-moving. Okay, we did that. In fact, they have been deployed along with the well-qualified, certified people into the industries, and they are doing excellent. That's number one. Number two, what I recall is, in fact, we had started partnering with many of these diversity organizations, right? Various NGOs, institutes, and many more. And where we used to send our own people, as a champions, to sit with them, to understand, and to also explain them that how this could be done, right? Now, that's where, again, it actually gave us a huge, huge results in terms of designing the curriculums the way these people could be taught, understanding where the gaps are and to refill that. And moreover, when we actually, and this is the third thing which we did it at IBM, okay? In fact, section of people were being just hired as an experimental basis. And we told them clearly up front. We said, we don't know what role we are hiring for. You come. Right? They were being paid the way others are being paid. Right? So their basic needs are being, definitely taken care. Now, 3 years they have been moved from department to department. Let me tell you, as a result of that, at least I wasn't aware ever that we will get this kind of result. We got the first visually impaired who is the full-fledged developer. We got first visually impaired. Of course, there are many others existing, but in IBM, we got the first visually impaired as a financial analyst. What happened? We broke those traditional roles fitment. And let me tell you, because of this today, we are very, very confident that if this kind of a people comes, they can also move beyond human resource. I hope that helps, Kamesh.
So bigger corporates, honestly, they are prisoners of their own policies, but startups are doing fairly well in this segment. So they are not going by the education degrees. We have time for last question. We have already overshot by 7 minutes. I think we can take one last question and rest of the questions can be taken.
And I'm going to be extremely brief,
yes,
Sajid.
Yes, Ketan, please.
Yeah, so, no, I just wanted to, since here there are HR people and corporates, You know, it's very well to talk of equity. The problem starts when people start with equality. You see, the whole problem is when you deal everybody equally, and I used to get this experience while I was in my previous employment. I would say, give me electronic copies of documents so I can read them. So I'm given an image. Now we've given electronic copy. Padho. You know, the problem is equity, the journey from equality to equity is something that creates problem for most of the people. And here I was hearing everybody from the last couple of hours talking about people with disability who are highly skilled. But that again is a minority. What happens to middle-level skilled people who are based out of urban, semi-urban, rural areas, who don't speak the English the way you and I do? I would request Project SAMEIP, SBI Foundation and the rest to look at that now in the third year, to also get that segment of people with disability involved and let the benefit of that project go there. Because it's fine to talk of those of us who are anyways educated and fortunately well-grounded. What about the rest?
Thanks. Thanks, Ketan. I think that ma'am wants to ask last question. So
I'll also like to say something here. I'm Nilesh Singhit. There are 2-3 points I would like to make. First of all, the technology kind of moves very fast, but somehow, you know, the disability is not able to catch up with it. And somebody was speaking about websites. I mean, you know, all the websites that are hosted are on, you know, open source software. I mean, you know, Linux server or free PhD server, and you use things like Joomla, I mean, you know, Drupal or WordPress. But the third-party software that is there, which actually looks at, I mean, you know, accessibility testing, they are not up to date. I mean, say WordPress updates it, then you find that, you know, the third-party software is not really capable of, I mean, you know, moving towards that. So I feel that the company should kind of invest in, I mean, you know, making these more, I mean, you know, get them up to date. And somebody was speaking about, I mean, you know, training. I think, you know, there are a lot of disability organizations that do training, but unfortunately they are very old. Recently I came across one training institute, I mean, you know, WordStar. I mean, Jesus Christ, who used WordStar? I mean, like, I was using WordStar when I started using computers in the early 90s. I mean, they still teach that. And I mean, you know, people who had come to train, they were clueless. I mean, you know, how do you even use it? Because it did not work with the mouse. So, I mean, you know, I think the companies should start investing in these organizations so that, you know, they come up at par with the training organizations. If you leave disability people to do their own work, and, I mean, you know, the companies kind of have their own standards, I think there should be some meeting place. And the third point I want to make is, I mean, you know, most of these, I mean, I can't read the name from here, but the lady who was speaking about MasterCard, I think, you know, I have been doing some work around this, and I feel that MNCs and companies, when they are in abroad, like USA, UK, they have pretty well versed with disability. The moment they come here, they completely, I mean, you know, have amnesia over it. I mean, you know, the work that they do. I think, you know, they also could be kind of a little open about it, and our disability sector should need to do more research. I mean, you know, and go and try and do it. Like, I mean, another lady was speaking about a bank being, I mean, difficulty. I mean, I've also had difficulty opening accounts. But what I do is, I print out everything about what the SBI, RBI has, give it to the manager, and say, now boss, you open an account. If you're not opening an account, I'll bloody sue you. I mean, you know, and it works very quickly. The next day, my account was opened. So I think, you know, we have to be a little proactive from our side also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, last question, please.
Last.
And this is last.
I won't take time. My name is Dr. Sushma Nagarkar, and I'm from Yash Charitable Trust. I just have a couple of observations, and I take off from where Ketan left off, which is please focus on those of us who work, those of the disabled sector who don't have college degrees. There's much, much larger in statistics I can give you during lunch if you need them. That's number one. Number two, our experience has been, and we have employment support services as one of our initiatives. When we go back, we place someone in the industry, and we go back and we have someone dedicated to making that connect and that training. the industry tells us we don't need you. Now that is where there is a gap. We in the special education or whatever we call it, NGO sector, have years of experience of how to change environments to suit the person who's actually being employed. So please utilize our expertise. Don't discount that. The third thing I want to say is recently I was approached by a MNC and I got a phone call saying, do you have anyone with orthopedic impairments? Now we work with people with neurodevelopmental disabilities. So I said, no. Why do you need someone with orthopedic impairments? And the ladies turned around and told me that we have to fill our 2% criteria by the end of the year. Now, I said, but we have people with autism. Why aren't you considering them? And she says to me, no, but we have accessibility. We are, completely accessible. And these are the candidates we need. Now, right there is a discrimination. So please, I would urge all of you who are leaders out here to please consider all of these and consider the people who don't have college degrees, please. They are wonderful workers and they can be skilled. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. That's it from the panel here. Thank you so much.
No, 1 second. Thank you so much. I just want to say we've culminated a very, very important discussion today. I think there are so many questions yet unanswered, and I'm sure during lunch people will approach you to ask you these questions. But what I've gathered from here is this discussion has been influencing, it has been thought-provoking, it has answered so many questions to so many of us who've had these in our mind. Well, I'd like to say, like Sri Lalit Mohan said, when a person is blind, God blesses them with powerful sensory skills that enables them to do better. Yes, am I right in that way? So it all boils down to now what you believe. And like it said, please hire people with talent, yeah? Not degrees, but with talent. I'm sure there are people there listening to all that we said. So for most of us here, there have been so many takeaways. Thank you, panelists. Thank you very, very much. And it has definitely going to make us reflect and rethink, and our behavior and attitude, like Sajid said, will be more judicious now towards approaching people with these disabilities. So once again, please put your hands together for our esteemed panelists who've done a fantastic job. Thank you very much. We'd like to felicitate all of you here. Thank you very much. So may I invite the American India Foundation, our organizing team, to please come forward and felicitate our panelists. It's a small gift and a token of our appreciation. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and thank you for enabling us with all your thoughts and your opinions on this matter. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes, please, can we really put our hands together? I'm sure everybody wants to hear that. Thank you very much. Thank you once again. You may now please take your seats. We would now like to call upon our students here who would share with us their experiences. So I'd like to first call upon Tejaswini Kotian. Tejaswini Kotian, where are you? Tejaswini Kotian. They're going to share their experiences with us. Tejaswini is energetic, self-motivated, a young influencer. She's undergoing training with Vishesh with SAMEIP right now, and she's going to share her journey with us. May I please request her to come on board? Please put your hands together. We have here with us our student who's trained and learned, and she's here to share with you and with us all that she has gathered in this journey. How would you like to share? Come, you want to stand where you are? Come, you can speak. Yes. Can I stand here?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Tejaswi Kotian, and I'm 26 years old. And I would like to say that I completed my education in the field of finance accounting, and this year itself I completed my LLB 2. I hold 2 degrees with me, and I have worked with DPOSH Clinic as an accountant also, and with Accenture also I have worked as a business operation new associate. Till this year I completed with Accenture also, and then I came across with this organization that is SAMEIP and all. And training partner with Vishesh. And my disability, I suffer from muscular dystrophy, which is 64%. It is like primary muscle disease, which has affected for me in my lower limbs and upper limbs both. Yes, and but this doesn't stop with my dreams and all that. It's my goal that to work with a corporate company itself, and I will achieve, definitely I'll achieve that goal itself, that also. Yeah, and I would like to thank everyone for all the motivational speeches that are given by such an organization and all that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tejaswi. Can you please put your hands together? I'd like to call upon our next student who is going to share. His name is Aditya, another young student. A BCom, MCom graduate. He is enrolled for training at SAMEIP, and his goal is to work with the BFSI sector. Besides his education qualifications, he's also pursuing a certified course in digital marketing. He's a very determined boy, and he's someone who is out to take on the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Aditya.
Hello, good afternoon all. I'm Aditya. Before I introduce myself, I would like to thank Project SAMEIP and training partner Vishesh. And I'm 23 years old and I'm BCom graduate, and I'm visually impaired 60%, but it doesn't stop me from doing anything now. And during my training session, my mentors helped me a lot with the training session, with the training manual and the subject of the syllabus which we had. And when I made a lot of friends and came to know about their disabilities, how they tackle them and how they do in the day-to-day functions of their daily life. My future goal is to become a banker and be in the finance sector because I'm very passionate about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Please put your hands together once again for both our students who are doing fantastically well. Thank you very much. Before we end today, we would like to do a very, very important thing, that is the launch of our toolkit. And for that, I'd like to invite upon stage Tanvi. May I please introduce Tanvi to you. Tanvi Kalodkar joined SBI Foundation as the Assistant Manager for Livelihood and Entrepreneurship Program in February 2022. Prior to this, Tanvi has worked with non-governmental organizations managing projects in the fields of sustainable livelihoods, skill development and wildlife conservation. Armed with a master in economics, Tanvi is passionate about working in the social sector. She seeks to develop resilient and innovative solutions from the standpoint of empowering marginalized communities and contributing towards bridging the development gap in the country. May I please request Tanvi to please come on the dais and launch the toolkit for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. So one of the core focus areas of Project SAMEIP has been to contribute towards advocacy efforts for enabling disability inclusion in the BFSI sector. To achieve this, it was envisioned to develop a disability inclusion toolkit by leveraging key learnings from the project, expertise of leaders from the BFSI sector, and specialists in the field of disability and inclusion to help employers create accessible and inclusive work environments for employees with disabilities. The Disability Inclusion Toolkit is intended to serve as a reference guide for all stakeholders and as a tool to assist in understanding the processes and steps involved in integrating persons with disabilities into the workforce. The toolkit follows a holistic approach and dwells deeper into what is an inclusive workspace, accessibility of built environment, virtual environment, and adopting inclusive policies and practices. We believe that this toolkit will serve as a solid guide for human resource professionals and senior management with responsibility for people management, recruitment, training and development, and also be valuable for use at the strategic level. Our hope is that in the process of using this toolkit, organizations will be able to undertake journeys of inclusion, firstly through practicing inclusivity at their workplace, and eventually institutionalizing it in organizational policies through recruiting and training persons with disabilities. Your presence here today solidifies our beliefs that journeys will encourage and inspire other organizations to adopt equal opportunity policies and practices, and soon enough, inclusivity for persons with disabilities will be a mandate at workplaces. With this, I now invite key management from SBI Foundation, Microsoft India, and AIF, Sanjay Prakash sir, Lalit Mohan sir, Shri Gunjan Patel, Shri Kamesh Sanghi, Padmaja Nair ma'am, Priyanka, and Mr. Aman Bhaiya to launch the Disability Inclusion Toolkit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the toolkit, may I request you to put your hands together. Here it is, compiled. Just for you. Thank you once again. Thank you, everybody. We thank you, everyone, as we draw to an end of our conference and our roundtable today. I'd like to personally thank each one of you. For those of you who've flown out of the country to be a part of this program, thank you very much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all our special people here. We thank you, Fiona Wadia, Rajesh Mehta, Sadaf Khan, Soumya Ranjan, Vijayant Rai, our training partners, Vishesh Vinvanaya Foundation and Team Lee Skill University. A special thanks to the leadership of SBI Foundation, Shri Sanjay Prakash and Shri Lalit Mohanji. Gunjan Patel from Microsoft. Also thank Aman Bhaiya, Tanvi and Priyanka. Our formal discussion may have concluded right now, but I'm sure you will catch up at lunch for any questions that were unanswered. So on behalf of American India Foundation, I once again am grateful and thankful to each one of you for your esteemed presence. Your involvement with us makes this possible. We are hopeful for many, many such conglomerates to be inspired by you and to join forces together to make this a movement that will be unstoppable. So enjoy your lunch, everybody, and we hope forward to interacting even more. And like Rajesh Patel rightly said, networking is very important. So enjoy your lunch. And may I request the panelists and everyone else to please come here for a group picture. Everyone, the rest of you, please go forward. Bon appetit. The buffet is open. Thank you once again. Please put your hands together for the organizing committee who've done a great job in putting this event together. Thank you. May we request the panelists to please come forward for a group picture. All of us, even the SBI Foundation team. I request all the others to please go ahead, proceed for lunch. Lunch is served. Thank you very much. This is your host, Michelle Gonzalez, signing off. I request you to please head for lunch. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, panelists. Thank you once again, all of you esteemed guests. Thank you.